Art lovers, welcome back to the channel. My name is Christopher West, and this is the place where we talk about all things modern and contemporary art and design. And today is our very first Q&A session. I asked on Instagram and YouTube for your questions about the art world and the art market. And to answer them, I decided to walk around Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology, because there is this fantastic building that proves there is not only art in unexpected places, but you might also find great architecture in places you would never expect to. So with that, let's get right into your questions. Question 1 comes from @TheStyleRiot on Instagram. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, please do. I'm @CWPresents. And every once in a while, I will ask for your questions and share some of the art that we're talking about here. So the Style Riot asks, what is the best way to discover new artists and works of art for collecting? Well, I would say that that is not the first question that you should actually ask. What you need to ask yourself first is, why do you want to collect? And then subsequently, what's your budget? There are many reasons to collect art, and all of them are valid. You might want to support your community or use art as an investment. And both of those options have very different requirements. But regardless your reasons, I would suggest taking your budget for the first year and spending $0 of it on art. I would take that money and see as much art as you possibly can. Promise yourself you will visit at least one museum per month, you'll go to as many galleries as you can, and you need to take a trip to an art fair. There's of course Art Basel in Switzerland and Miami, and then you have the Armory Show in Frieze, New York and Frieze, LA. If you're in the Midwest, you can go to Art Chicago. But this is a great way to train your eye as quickly as possible. At these fairs, you will not only see some great 20th century masters, but you'll also see the latest and greatest in the contemporary art world. And from there, you can begin to hone your tastes and what exactly you gravitate towards. The more you see, the more you train your eye, the easier it will be when it comes time to finally jump on that purchase. Question 2 comes from a YouTube user @StarWarsMiniatures, and it's refreshing to meet someone who is a Star Wars lover and an art lover. And he asks a great question. Whatever happened to Charles Saatchi? Does he still collect art anymore? I come from a time when you could just walk into the Saatchi gallery for free and look at pieces from his collection, and it was amazing. Will we ever see another collector like him who can evaluate unknown artists like he did with the YBAs? Well, that's one hell of a question, and maybe even worthy of its own entire video on Charles Saatchi. If you're not familiar with Charles Saatchi, he was an advertising magnate. He and his brother owned the ad firm Saatchi & Saatchi, and I believe at one time it was the world's largest ad firm. So back in the 80s, he started collecting American minimalism, people like Dan Flavin and Donald Judd. He ultimately took those works and sold them, and then invested in the YBAs, which stands for the Young British Artists, some of which we've covered on this channel. Names you would probably recognize, like Damien Hirst and Tracey Emin. This was a movement based on young artists in and around London at the time. And you might remember the exhibition Sensation. That was organized from Charles Saatchi's collection, and it included Damien Hirst's giant great white shark in formaldehyde. This is the show that traveled to the Brooklyn Museum that got Rudy Giuliani all in a tizzy. Well, through all this, Charles Saatchi opened his own vanity museum in London. It's called the Saatchi Gallery. And he would eventually sell all of those works by the YBAs, including Damien Hirst's shark, for I think $7 million. And he purchased it for, I believe, $50,000, so that's a pretty good profit. But anyway, then he started investing in Chinese art. So as for what he's collecting at this moment, I don't know exactly. And I did some research to try to figure it out. But many people often compare him more to an art dealer than art collector. The Saatchi Gallery still exists. I believe they're a completely independent nonprofit now, but they are still doing active exhibitions based on contemporary art happening today. The next question comes from Instagram follower @Kerrigan_Clark, who asks, best way to sell to institutions or businesses? I have 2 8-foot paintings to get rid of. Well, I might start by saying that if you're just trying to get rid of paintings and you don't want them, I'm not sure a business or institution will want them. Let's be completely honest, selling art is very hard. If it was easy, we'd all be artists. And selling to institutions often takes years of exhibiting in galleries and being a part of group shows and showing at nonprofits just to try to get your work recognized. Businesses might be a different game, however. I'm guessing in all of your local communities, there will be someone who serves as an art consultant, someone who helps businesses when they move into a new office or build a new building. You need to find out who those people are in your community and then reach out to them. Make sure they have access to your full portfolio and breadth of work. Then when they have a new client, they can refer back to that, and potentially it could be a match. The next question is a 2-parter, also from Instagram. Who is your favorite artist, and how do you or someone decide the price you're willing to pay for a piece? Well, who's my favorite artist? That's a hard one, and one that changes from time to time. Sometimes I want an Ed Ruscha on the wall. Sometimes I want an Ellsworth Kelly on the wall. But I have to say, the first piece of art I ever cried in front of was a Cézanne. And so I guess if I were to choose just one artist or one piece of art, it would be a Paul Cézanne still life. Now, in regards of prices to pay for art, it kind of also depends upon what you're talking about. If you're talking about a 20th century artist, one that you can find in museums, I will look at historical data, auction records. Say if I find a print that they're asking $5,000 for it, I can look back at auction records and see if that's a fair price. And same goes for a painting. It might be $1 million, that's out of my budget, but if someone's asking $1 million for a painting, you can look at auction records and find works of similar size and similar style to the one you're interested in and determine if that's a fair price. Now understand that the gallery is probably going to be charging a little bit more than some of the auction records you're seeing because they have to do things like store the work, insure the work. They often put them in an exhibition in their gallery space, so there are those expenses associated with it. But ultimately, fostering that relationship with the gallery can pay off in numerous ways down the line. And the next question is about auctions. They ask, how do you sell work at auction and what exactly is a buyer's premium? The first thing you need to do is you need to take a picture of your piece. You can even just use your iPhone and get some of the basic information. Get the dimensions, any provenance, meaning ownership history. You'll want to know, of course, the name of the artist and the title of the work if available, and maybe a little bit about how you got it. Then you can go to pretty much any auction house's website, and they'll have a place where you can submit potential consignments. Here you'll enter all that information we just discussed, and they'll take a look at it, and if it makes sense for them to try to sell it, they'll get back to you with an estimate, and that's usually a range from, say, $2,000 to $4,000, or $5,000 to $10,000, or $12 to $18 million. From there, you can decide if it's worth it for you to sell. And if you decide to move forward, then you'll discuss with the auction house your contract. This will include their commission, how long they'll have it, who's paying for the insurance, who's paying for shipping. All of these things are negotiable. And then this leads to the second part of your question, what is a buyer's premium? Well, the buyer's premium is the amount that the auction house adds on to the hammer price. That's how they make their money. Now let me explain. If you purchase something at auction and you see the auctioneer say sold $1,000 and he points to you, you might be thinking you get that work for $1,000. Well, that's not true. The auction house adds their premium on top of that, and typically it's about 25%. So when they sell a piece to you for $1,000, you're actually going to have to pay about $1,250. And this may start to change very, very soon. Sotheby's is introducing a new model where they're going to charge a smaller buyer's premium, I think 15%, and then just have a flat fee, a flat commission for their sellers. Their hope is that with the smaller buyer's premium, they can attract more people to sell with their auction house. But this has all been going down in like the last month or so. And it hasn't been implemented yet. So once it is, we'll take a look at that and discuss it and see if it's worth it to Sotheby's or if Christie's is ultimately going to win out. And so, why am I here? It's because this place is home to one of my favorite little buildings in the area. This is Whitechapel here on the campus of Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. It was designed by VOA Architects out of Chicago, which is a firm that no longer exists as it was absorbed by a larger New York firm. But if you're familiar with the Chicago skyline, I'll put a picture right here of another building by VOA, which I'm sure you're more familiar with. This is named after the couple that gave the lead gift for its construction. Its shell is basically stainless steel and glass, and it overlooks this pond here on campus. If there are questions I missed about the art world or the art market, please leave them down in the comments below, and I'll try to get to them on a future video. As always, I really appreciate those who make it to the end, so thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Ciao!